The future doesn't reward intention. It rewards preparation. And in 2026, only the prepared will be untouchable. Let me tell you something most people don't want to hear. The world is not getting easier. The competition is not slowing down, and nobody is coming to save you. So if you want to become invincible in 2026, you must first understand this truth. Invincible people are not fearless. They are prepared. They don't win because life is fair. They win because they are built differently. Most people are broke not because of their bank account, but because of their belief system. If your thoughts are weak, your life will be weak. If your thinking is small, your results will be small. You don't get what you want, you get what you believe you deserve. In 2026, the people who win will not be the smartest. They will be the ones who think clearly under pressure. Point 2, upgrade your identity, not just your goals. A goal without an identity change is a wish. If you still see yourself as trying, hoping, one day, you will keep producing almost results. Invincible. People don't say, I'm trying. They say, this is who I am. When your identity changes, your behavior follows automatically. Hope is not a strategy. Motivation is not a business model. In 2026, value will always defeat vibes. If you can solve problems, communicate clearly, sell ideas, execute consistently, you will never be powerless. Invincibility comes from usefulness, not wishes, because it does. Your phone is not neutral. Your environment is not innocent. Your time is being auctioned every second. If you can't control your attention, you will never control your future. Focused people look lucky. Distracted people look busy. What you watch, listen to, and think about daily becomes who you are yearly. Garbage in produces garbage confidence. Powerful input produces unshakable certainty. If you want a powerful life in 2026, you must feed your mind like an athlete feeds their body. Feelings are terrible leaders. Invincible people don't wait to feel ready. They move while afraid. They act while uncertain. They execute while uncomfortable. Consistency compounds faster than talent ever will. If you want to become invincible in 2026, stop asking for an easier life and start becoming a stronger person. Because when you are prepared, pressure can't break you. Criticism can't stop you. Failure can't defeat you. And that is what invincibility really looks like. Most people chase money before they ever learn how to control their own mind, and that is exactly why money keeps slipping through their fingers. Your mind is the engine, and money is only the byproduct. If the engine is weak, inconsistent, or damaged by fear, doubt, and bad beliefs, no amount of effort will create lasting results. The truth is, money doesn't respond to desperation. It responds to clarity. It responds to confidence. It responds to discipline. And all of those are mental attributes long before they become financial outcomes. Your mind is constantly giving you instructions, even when you are not aware of it. Every decision you make, every action you take, and every opportunity you avoid starts as a thought. If those thoughts are rooted in scarcity, insecurity, or confusion, your actions will reflect that. You will hesitate when you should act. You will quit when resistance appears. You will settle for less because deep down you believe that more is not meant for you. That is not a money problem. That is a mindset problem. People who master their mind understand that emotions are temporary, but decisions are permanent. They do not allow fear to vote on important choices. They don't wait to feel ready, confident, or motivated. They move based on principles, not moods. When you let emotions control you, your life becomes unpredictable. When you discipline your thinking, your results become consistent. Wealth is built on consistency, not intensity. Another reason mastering your mind comes first is because money amplifies who you already are. If you are disciplined, money makes you more effective. If you are careless, money makes you more destructive. If you are insecure, money won't fix it, it will expose it. That's why people who win money quickly often lose it even faster. They upgraded their income without upgrading their identity. Your internal world must be able to sustain your external success. Mental mastery also means learning how to think long-term in a short-term world. Most people sacrifice tomorrow for comfort today. They choose ease over growth and distraction over development. But people who dominate financially understand delayed gratification. They are willing to be misunderstood, uncomfortable, and even lonely for a season because they see further than others. They don't ask, how do I feel right now? They ask, who does this decision turn me into? When your mind is trained, pressure doesn't break you, it sharpens you. Criticism doesn't stop you, it refines you. Failure doesn't define you, it educates you. You stop seeing obstacles as signs to quit and start seeing them as proof that you are moving forward. This mental resilience is priceless because money flows toward people who can handle responsibility, risk, and uncertainty without collapsing. Mastering your mind also means taking control of what you consume. What you listen to daily becomes your internal dialogue. What you watch repeatedly becomes your normal. If you constantly feed your mind negativity, drama, and low-level thinking, don't be surprised when your confidence is fragile and your vision is unclear. A powerful mind is built intentionally through selective input, repetition of truth, and constant learning. Once your mind is aligned, money becomes simpler, not easier, but clearer. You make better decisions. You take calculated risks. You stay focused longer. You recover faster from setbacks. And most importantly, you stop chasing money and start attracting opportunities. Because at that point, you are no longer trying to get rich. You are becoming the kind of person wealth looks for. Master your mind first. Because when your thinking is strong, your actions are strong. When your actions are strong, your results are inevitable. And when your results are consistent, money has no choice but to follow. Most people think success is about setting better goals, but goals are useless if the person chasing them never changes. You can write down the biggest goals in the world, but if your identity stays the same, your results will always return to familiar limits. That's because behavior flows naturally from identity. You don't act according to what you want, you act according to who you believe you are. Until that belief shifts, progress will always be temporary. An upgraded identity changes how you move, speak, decide, and tolerate discomfort. When you see yourself as someone who finishes what they start, quitting becomes unnatural. When you see yourself as disciplined, excuses feel embarrassing. When you see yourself as valuable, you stop begging for opportunities and start positioning yourself for them. This is why two people can have the same goal, the same resources, and the same information, yet end up in completely different places. One upgraded their identity. The other only upgraded their to-do list. Most people sabotage their goals because their self-image is outdated. They still see themselves as the person they used to be, the one who procrastinated, doubted, failed, or played small. So even when opportunity shows up, they unconsciously push it away because it doesn't match who they think they are. You cannot outperform the story you keep telling yourself. If your internal narrative says, I'm not that kind of person, your actions will always find a way to prove that story right. Upgrading your identity requires you to make decisions from the future version of yourself, not the current one. You must ask, how would the person I'm becoming think? How would they respond? What would they tolerate? This shift changes everything. You stop asking for permission. You stop needing validation. You stop explaining your vision to people who can't see it. You move with quiet confidence because your approval no longer comes from outside. It comes from alignment. Identity is built through repeated evidence. Every small promise you keep to yourself reinforces who you believe you are. Every time you do the hard thing when no one is watching, your self-respect increases. Over time, this compounds into certainty, and certainty is powerful because a person who is certain doesn't need motivation. They don't need hype. They act because acting is simply who they are. This is also why environment matters. If you stay surrounded by people who only know your past, they will constantly try to pull you back into it. Not intent, but unconsciously. They respond to who you were, not who you're becoming. Upgrading your identity often requires upgrading your standards, your conversations, and sometimes your circle. Growth demands separation before it creates expansion. When identity changes, goals stop feeling heavy. Discipline stops feeling forced. Consistency becomes natural. You no longer rely on willpower because your habits are aligned with your self-image. You don't need to chase confidence because confidence emerges from integrity, doing what you said you would do long enough that you trust yourself. The most powerful thing about an upgraded identity is that it makes your success sustainable. You don't collapse under pressure. You don't self-destruct when things go well. You don't shrink when responsibility increases. You've already decided who you are, so circumstances no longer get to decide for you. Goals can inspire you, but identity transforms you. And when you become someone new internally, your external life has no choice but to catch up. Most people fall in love with the idea of success, but never fall in love with the process that produces it. They talk about dreams, vision, and passion, but they avoid the uncomfortable work of becoming valuable. Dreams feel good because they cost nothing. Skills demand effort, repetition, humility, and time. That's why skills are rare and dreams are everywhere. The marketplace doesn't reward desire, it rewards usefulness. And usefulness is AWA, YS, built, never imagined. You can be highly motivated and still be financially powerless if you don't possess skills that solve real problems. Motivation without skill creates frustration. Passion without competence creates disappointment. The world doesn't pay you for what you hope to do one day. It pays you for what you can reliably deliver today. When pressure is high and expectations are real, only skill holds up. Everything else collapses. Skills that pay are usually boring to learn at first. They require repetition when results are invisible. They demand focus in a world addicted to novelty. This is where most people quit. They confuse discomfort with failure and difficulty with impossibility. But the truth is, struggle is the tuition you pay for mastery. The people who win long-term are not the most gifted. They are the ones who stayed long enough to become dangerous. Another reason skills matter is because they give you leverage. With the right skills, your effort multiplies. You can create impact without burning yourself out. You can negotiate from strength instead of desperation. You can walk away from bad opportunities because you know your value doesn't disappear if one door closes. Skills turn confidence from an emotion into a fact. You don't feel valuable. You know you are. Dreamers often wait for permission. Skilled individuals create permission. When you bring value to the table, conversations change. People listen differently. Opportunities come to you instead of you chasing them. This is why developing communication, problem solving, and execution skills is more important than collecting ideas. Ideas are cheap. Execution is rare. Skills also protect you in uncertain times. Trends change, industries shift, economies rise and fall. But a person with transferable skills is never stuck. They adapt, they pivot, they rebuild. While others panic, they reposition. This is real security. Not a title, not a paycheck, but the ability to produce results under different conditions. Building skills requires you to embrace being a beginner. It forces you to confront your ego. You must be willing to look incompetent before you look impressive. Most people avoid this phase, which is why they stay average. But every expert you admire was once clumsy, slow, and unsure. The difference is they didn't stop when their pride was uncomfortable. They kept going until competence replaced insecurity. When you focus on skill building, your dreams stop being fantasies and start becoming plans. You no longer say one day. You say, here's how. You break ambition into daily actions. You measure progress by improvement, not applause. And over time, the gap between who you are and what you want closes naturally. The irony is that when you stop chasing dreams and start building skills, your confidence increases, your income follows, and your vision expands. Not because you imagined it harder, but because you became capable of handling it. Skills are the bridge between desire and reality. Build them, and you won't need to convince the world of your worth. Your results will speak for you. Most people don't lose because they lack talent or opportunity. They lose because their attention is constantly being stolen. Distraction is not a small problem. It is a silent thief that slowly drains potential, ambition, and time. Every notification, every unnecessary conversation, every hour spent scrolling is a trade. You are always paying with your future, whether you realize it or not. That's why eliminating distractions is not about productivity. It's about survival in a world designed to keep you unfocused. Your life moves in the direction of what you consistently pay attention to. If your attention is fragmented, your progress will be fragmented. You can't build anything meaningful in short bursts of shallow focus. Real growth requires depth, repetition, and uninterrupted thinking. But distraction trains your brain to crave novelty instead of mastery. It makes stillness uncomfortable and focus feel heavy. Over time, this rewire Ask you to avoid anything that requires patience or discipline. The most dangerous thing about distraction is that it feels harmless. It disguises itself as rest, entertainment, or staying informed. But hours disappear, momentum dies, and goals quietly get postponed. You don't notice the damage in a single day. You notice it years later when you realize you've been busy but not effective. Movement is not progress. Noise is not momentum. People who eliminate distractions don't do it because they are extreme. They do it because they are serious. They understand that focus is a competitive advantage. While others react, they create. While others consume, they produce. They protect their mornings, their energy, and their mental space like assets, because that's exactly what they are. You cannot give your best to your goals if you give your attention to everything else. Distractions are not only digital, they are also emotional and social. The wrong conversations drain you. The wrong environments weaken your standards. The wrong people normalize mediocrity. When you are constantly around noise, clarity becomes impossible. Eliminating distractions sometimes means disappointing people, saying no more often, and choosing solitude over constant connection. Growth often looks boring from the outside, but powerful on the inside. When you remove distractions, resistance shows up. Your mind will look for escape because it's not used to silence and effort. That's when discipline matters most. Focus is a muscle, and like any muscle, it strengthens through resistance. The more you train it, the easier it becomes to stay locked in. Eventually, focus stops feeling forced and starts feeling natural. At that point, progress accelerates. A focused life creates confidence. When you know you're giving your best attention to what matters, guilt disappears, anxiety decreases, self-respect increases. You stop feeling behind because you're no longer scattered. You're intentional. You know where your time is going and why. That clarity creates momentum, and momentum creates belief. Eliminating distractions doesn't make life smaller, it makes it deeper. You experience work, learning, and growth at a higher level. You start finishing what you start. You start seeing results where others see excuses. And over time, that focus compounds into mastery. If your life depends on focus, and does, then distraction is not something to manage casually. It's something to eliminate ruthlessly. Because the people who win are not the ones with the most time, the most talent, or the best ideas. They are the ones who can pay attention the longest to what actually matters. Everything you become is first something you repeatedly consume. Your thoughts, your confidence, your habits, and even your decisions are shaped long before you act by what you allow into your mind every single day. Inputs are not neutral. They are instructions. Whether you choose them intentionally or absorb them passively, they are shaping your outcomes in ways most people never stop to examine. If you don't control your inputs, you will spend your life reacting to results you don't understand. Your mind works like a filter, but it only filters what you train it to filter. When you constantly expose yourself to negativity, low standards, and shallow thinking, your internal dialogue begins to mirror that environment. You start doubting yourself faster. You lose clarity under pressure. You accept limitations that were never real. On the other hand, when your inputs are intentional, your thinking becomes sharper, your confidence becomes steadier, and your decisions become more aligned with the future you want. Most people focus on outcomes without ever questioning their daily consumption. They want better results, but keep feeding their mind content that weakens focus, patience, and belief. You cannot expect discipline when your inputs encourage distraction. You cannot expect confidence when your inputs reinforce comparison. And you cannot expect growth when your inputs keep you emotionally reactive instead of mentally grounded. What you listen to becomes your inner voice. Over time, the opinions you hear most often start sounding like your own thoughts. This is why environment is so powerful. If the people around you complain, rationalize, and avoid responsibility, that tone slowly becomes normal to you. But when your inputs are conversations about growth, execution, and standards, your expectations rise automatically. You stop tolerating excuses, especially from yourself. Visual inputs matter just as much. What you watch shapes what you believe is possible. Constant exposure to chaos, outrage, and superficial success distorts reality. It creates urgency without direction and ambition without structure. When your mind is overloaded, clarity disappears. But when your inputs are focused, educational, challenging, and purposeful, your mind has space to think, connect ideas, and make better choices. Reading, learning, and studying are not about information. They are about calibration. They reset your thinking to a higher standard. They remind you that progress is built, not gifted. Over time, these inputs create mental discipline. You begin to pause before reacting. You think in systems instead of emotions. You respond instead of react. Controlling inputs also means limiting exposure, not just adding better material. Silence, solitude, and stillness are inputs too. They give your mind time to process, reflect, and align. In a noisy world, stillness becomes a competitive advantage. It allows you to hear your own thinking clearly without interference. When your inputs are controlled, your outcomes become predictable. Focus improves, energy stabilizes, confidence grows quietly without hype. You don't need external validation because your internal framework is strong. You start making decisions from principles instead of pressure. The people who dominate their lives are not lucky, they are intentional. They understand that every day is a vote for the person they are becoming. Control what you consume, and you control what you produce. Control what you feed your mind, and you control the direction of your life. Most people wait for the right mood, the right timing, or the right level of confidence before they take action. That wait is what keeps them stuck. Feelings are unpredictable, inconsistent, and easily influenced by comfort or fear. If execution depends on emotion, progress will always be optional. The people who win don't act because they feel ready. They act because action is part of who they are. They understand that discipline is a decision made once and honored daily, regardless of how they feel. Execution is what separates potential from results. Everyone has ideas, everyone has plans, but only a small percentage of people are willing to do the work repeatedly without applause. Relentless execution means showing up when motivation is low, when results are invisible, and when no one is watching. It means doing what needs to be done, even when the reward feels far away. This is where most people fall off. Not because they can't do it, but because they don't feel like it anymore. Feelings are temporary, but habits are permanent. When you execute consistently, you remove emotion from the equation. You don't debate whether to act, you simply act. This creates momentum, and momentum creates confidence. Confidence built on acti. On is unshakable because it's backed by evidence. You trust yourself because you've proven repeatedly that you do what you say you'll do, relentless. Execution also builds mental toughness. Every time you push through resistance, your tolerance for discomfort increases. What once felt hard becomes normal. What once felt overwhelming becomes manageable. Over time, this compounds into resilience. Pressure no longer paralyzes you. Setbacks no longer define you. You recover faster because you're trained to move forward, not dwell. Another reason execution matters more than feeling is because clarity often follows action, not the other way around. Many people wait to feel clear before they move, but clarity is created through movement. You learn by doing. You adjust by executing. You improve by engaging with reality, not by overthinking it. Action reveals the next step. Inaction multiplies doubt. Relentless execution also exposes weakness, and that's a good thing. It shows you where your systems break, where your discipline slips, and where your thinking needs adjustment. Without execution, those weaknesses stay hidden and growth stalls. With execution, feedback becomes immediate and improvement becomes inevitable. When you execute even on bad days, you build self-respect. You stop seeing yourself as someone who quits when it's uncomfortable. You become someone who can be relied on by others and by yourself. That internal trust changes how you carry yourself. You speak differently. You decide faster. You stop negotiating with your potential. In the long run, talent fades, motivation fluctuates, and circumstances change. But disciplined execution endures. It compounds quietly, day after day, until results become undeniable. The people who dominate are not emotional. They are consistent. They don't ask how they feel. They ask what must be done. Execute relentlessly, especially when you don't feel like it. That is where the real transformation happens. That is where ordinary effort turns into extraordinary results. As you move forward, remember this: becoming invincible in 2026 is not about luck, timing, or perfection. It is about intention backed by action. It is about mastering your mind before money ever touches your hands, upgrading who you are instead of only what you want, building skills that make you valuable, eliminating distractions that drain your focus, controlling what you allow into your mind, and executing consistently, especially on the days when it feels uncomfortable. Invincibility is built quietly, in private moments, through small disciplined choices repeated daily. No applause, no shortcuts, just standards you refuse to lower and commitments you refuse to break. When pressure comes, you won't panic. When challenges appear, you won't fold. When opportunity shows up, you'll be ready to handle it. So don't wait for a perfect moment or a better year. Decide who you are becoming and start acting like that person now. Because by the time 2026 arrives, it won't ask if you feel ready. It will only reveal whether you prepared.